That's another thing we don't reiterate enough. Each product needs to have a crisp, clear North Star that this product is solving this problem. This is why it's existing. If in a product portfolio you look at it and that answer is not clear, then we should rethink, should this product be sunset or not, right? And it's fine, right? I mean, people who are working on that product may feel threatened again. Hey, if this my baby goes away, where would I go? There are other 20 million problems to solve, man, right? Uh, right. But I think from leadership, it has to, they have to iterate continuously.
Hello, everyone. So today we have um, our next episode, and I have a guest here, Adil Faisal. He's a product innovation coach and founder of the 8126 Venture Studio. I had a pleasure to work with Adil for a few years in the past, and he was coaching some of the development teams I worked with, and we had great experience working together. And we had some actually other than Scrum training or Agile training events, like he was running a meetup within the organization, so which was great, something additional I've never seen before anywhere. So that was great. And also Adil worked with our leadership, and they were figuring out like the overall agile mindset for the organization, and some metrics and some like best practices for development teams to do software better, CI/CD, and all that stuff. So that was great, and I think you brought a lot of experience and innovation to the organization. So thank you for that.
Anytime.
Yeah, and today we have we have you here to talk about product innovation and product project to product transition and the work that you're doing with your studio. And before we start, if you can just maybe talk a little bit about yourself and your studio and what you guys doing there.
Absolutely. So yeah, as Vitaly said, we've been together for some time, and I my background is in actually in startups. Right after school, I went to startups. I always
Hmm.
gravitated toward product innovation and small companies, so working with small teams, right? So I have that was back in 2000. That gives you some idea of how old I am. So right when the uh, during the first dot-com boom, right, we went to startups, had
Hmm.
good and bad runs, and so the one of the good runs landed us in Microsoft. They basically acquired our company. We actually worked incidentally on the first generation of web collaboration. I mean, not in our wildest
Hmm.
dreams. We thought it would come this far in 50, what, 20 years, but
Yeah.
here we are. Um, so after that, and about 10 years, I was in Microsoft. Sorry, in startups and Microsoft together. So even within Microsoft, we were actually in the startup mode. They kept us separate from the big Microsoft Office organization. Uh,
Hmm.
and we had very mature products, right? Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, etc. But there, I first came uh, first and to see how product innovation works within a huge enterprise, right? So that was a very
Hmm.
intriguing experience for a small fish like us who went in a bigger pond. So after that, actually, there was a about 10 years or so hiatus, I would say, from startups because I came from West Coast to East Coast. Um, I actually got married. It's, his
Okay.
our whole clan was here, so I
That's a
came
good
here.
excuse.
and and um, and here everyone does federal consulting, so I went into federal consulting. um,
Hmm.
Now I one thing I retained was every time I felt the need, and I'm sure Vitaly, every professional I have met so far, they always have some great ideas, right?
Yeah.
Remember we talked about, and we even worked some of it, right, on the KPIs and stuff like that, matrices, how to measure agility, performance, etc., right,
Right.
outcome, right? So every time I came across an idea, not necessarily always business agility related, it was maybe many times it was when I was I am a father of two kids, and I take them online. I take them to different places. Of course, my background is technology innovation, so I gravitated toward that kind of solution. If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. so, so I used to write it down, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I have a, I still have it, a portfolio, you can say, or wish list or bucket list, right? So I'm just giving you a backstory of the 8126 ventures. During COVID, like everyone else, you have some time to sit back and do a
Mm-hmm.
retrospective on your life, right? On
Right.
that. So I was looking at this thing, and also during COVID, at the very beginning of COVID, I'm sure everyone had this moment as well, that you had a seismic shift, right? The kids were going online. My 5-year-old was doing Zoom, right?
Yeah.
That was such a
The
shift,
whole new world. Yeah.
whole new world. It just opened up. And as a parent, I feel like I'm losing grip on the kids. I mean, I don't know how to control this. And there were no products to help me, like as a parent, because most of the innovations, if you see the social media, etc., and the VC money, the traditional VC money, NFTs, board apes, right?
Yeah.
Most of the innovations are targeted toward by done by 20 somethings and 30 somethings for 20 somethings and 30 somethings. That's the huge, there's a huge momentum around that.
Mm-hmm.
So VC, so I keep looking at this ever growing list, and I realize that I will go to my grave with it if I don't do anything about it. So I had sometimes I basically bootstrapped a venture studio. I didn't even know that I'm creating a venture studio. I just started starting working on the products. Um, One of the product innovation leaders one of the ways I started working, because I wanted to also, there were two motivations for 8126. I already gave you the genesis of 8126 ventures. That's when it started during COVID.
Sure.
Um, there are two primary motivations. One was actually to work on creating at least some of the products, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the second one was, I really believe that the current ventures capitalist ecosystem, that the startup ecosystem there is, it's hugely wasteful. We come, both you and I come from lean agile mindset, and how to cut down waste and all that, right? It's hugely wasteful. In some Bay areas, you'd hear that, oh, people cannot even think about launching a pre-seed without like $500,000. They cannot even think about moving, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to actually really walk the walk and figure out. I had some assumptions that where it can be hugely improved. So I wanted to walk the walk. Unless you actually do something, you can
Right.
assume these things. So those were the two primary motivations, and we got started. And I'll wait for your next question. I don't want to like run
Okay.
through.
Okay, sounds good. Well, let's start then. And can you tell everybody what is product innovation in like in general terms?
Product innovation is, I would say that some some new way of doing things that either addresses a pain or makes something better, right? Does something completely new, which we call disruptive innovation,
Mm-hmm.
comes out of the blue, right? Um,
Okay.
or something that is sustained or incremental innovation, right? You doing something this way, you make it a little bit better. So there can be different types of innovation.
Maybe you have a couple of examples to make it more clear, and
Sure.
it's always better to have examples, and it's,
Absolutely,
that's
absolutely,
how people learn much faster.
absolutely. So I'll give you the two first example. So out of that bucket list, I chose two things to work on
Mm-hmm.
at the very beginning. So number one was we call it, the name right now is called Caravan Funds. It's a crowdfunding portal. But the core problem that we are trying to solve there was debt-free home financing. Like,
I see.
can we do home financing in a way that is that the prospective homeowner doesn't need to get into debt,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, uh, that has some like the reason behind it was, of course, I mean, as a Muslim, I cannot consume debt interest. I cannot consume interest. And if you look at millennials and Gen Zs, not necessarily Muslims, any millennials, Gen Zs,
Mm-hmm.
there also you'll see that very debt averse. They don't want to
Mm-hmm.
get into debt because they have seen student loans, etc. And you see what happens to the market when it's related to interest, right? It's a
Sure.
correlated with interest. It becomes very unaffordable.
Right.
So that was one big problem I felt, I saw. I had some uh, experience how to deal with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the product that's the solution we're trying to bring, right? Debt free home ownership. The second example would be Careerverse. I'll share the links with you for both products. Careerverse is
Sure.
basically also something I felt myself, like uh, a career guidance for the lifelong learner. We are all lifelong learners. I mean, right now the
Yeah.
game has changed, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, our career paths are changing so many times, and it's even more confusing to kids who are getting out of school, right? And to them, like, if you ask them, I used to mentor quite a few kids. They'll say, "Oh, I know." If first question when you ask, "Do you know what you want to be?" Yeah, I know. What do you want to be? I want to be in IT. Okay.
Yeah.
No, correct.
Yeah.
So that's another example, right? What type of problems you solve. So one just last on comment on this topic is, one premise that we followed was to actually first fall in love with the problem, not the solution, right? We start
Sure.
with the
Mm-hmm.
problem. We don't
Mm-hmm.
get into a problem. We don't start with the premise that, oh, we have to use AI, right?
Yeah.
Or we have to use blockchain. We don't start with that premise. We start with
Mm-hmm.
a genuine problem, and if we
Mm-hmm.
have to use AI, we would use AI to solve it.
Yeah, that's the key. That's like you're starting from the end, where you want to be with this,
Right, right,
not necessarily the solution, but like where you want to be, the future state. And then you say, which tool will allow me to get there the quickest?
right,
Something
right.
like that. When you're talking about these two products, these two examples of product innovations that you worked on, are those digital products or their services, or how does it work?
Right. So, a great question. Yeah. So, because of my background, as I said, when you're a hammer, everything is a nail, right? So, I tend to gravitate toward problems that I see a digital solution for,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily everything turns out to be a digital product. However, the ones
Sure.
that we are working on till now uh, is mostly digital solutions, right?
Okay. All right. I just wanted to clarify. I wasn't clear if it's more like consulting or services, like public service maybe or something like that, or it's more
So no,
like a
the two examples I gave, Careerverse is a software as a solution,
yeah,
software as a
right,
service, SaaS
yeah,
product, and
uh-huh.
Caravan Funds itself as well is a SaaS product. Both of them are SaaS
Got it.
products at this point.
Okay, okay, got it. So, what are some of the key principles or practices that may contribute to a successful product innovation?
Principles or
So,
practices? Great question. So, I mean, we all talk about lean startup, design thinking approach, lean startup, and lean
hmm
agile way of iteratively deliver and build, measure, learn, right? And
hmm
it's very hard to stick to the book, but at the same time, I do. I mean, there's great. Truth in the ideal path, right? So we try to stick to it, right? We try to
hmm
stick to it, and it does. It is hard to do lean startup, build, measure, learn, right? I mean, to actually, we have felt
sure,
it in our daily life, daily work as well, right?
yeah,
But that is actually one thing that I am happy to report in uh, getting two products out the door. There are a couple more that are in the pipeline, but that is one thing that has kept the cost and the risk down. I'd say 10x, right? From
hmm
if I did it in any other way, right? That plus a little bit of custom process that we added, which is number one was we are not we start the problem with not to go after seed funding or venture funding too early. That's another thing, right?
hmm
um, for very early stage innovation, it can be done extremely cheaply, again following the lean startup principle, right? And
hmm
quick prototyping that design thinking process espouses, right? You first do brainstorming, right? Diverge and then converge to the
right,
most promising solutions. So these two, sticking to the uh, design thinking process and the lean startup process as much as possible, and also not to go after funding but be frugal at the very beginning, because that makes you think in ways that you won't think if there is $500,000 in the bank.
hmm
It will make you think in a different way. And actually, there is a third one. The third one is to leverage on subject matter expertise. So what I do
okay,
is, uh, say I am not an AI expert by any means. So in LinkedIn, I basically leverage on LinkedIn a lot, right? I
hmm
engage with the correct subject matter expert and engage them for a very small, very little time, right? So that's the third. So leverage on subject matter experts, even though um, they're costly, but you don't need that much time from them.
you just get them for a short project or for something that you need
Yeah.
them to do. Yeah. So was this principles and practices and how you do these things? I assume you have some sort of as a coach, you have to go through some sort of training and education period. Do you work with leadership in those startups, or is it usually like small groups of people probably who work on this, right? So, how does this work
Oh, okay,
basically?
okay. So there is a little bit of a misunderstanding. There, that's because of the nomenclature as well. So there is a little bit of difference between venture studio and say incubator.
Sure.
Both
Okay.
produce startups, right? Both produce
Mm-hmm.
startups, but in Incubator, they like Y Combinator, Incubator slash Accelerator, they
Yeah. Yeah.
open
Yeah.
up to the world, say, hey, give us your ideas. Then they will have, say, 2,000 applications. Out of that, they will choose 20 or two, and then help them. Those ideas will be submitted by the co-founders, by the
Mm-hmm.
founders, right, by the startup founders, and then they will try to help them and take them from stage A to stage B, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so and Venture Studio usually have a set premise, like known guardrails. Like we only focus on future of work, wealth, and well-being. These three areas, right? And we actually own the startups. The startups
I
were
see.
spawned inside,
I see.
and we take them from zero to there is a stage gate process that each
Mm-hmm.
venture studio pretty much follows the same kind of stage gate. There's R&D, then there's your very early stage like problem solution, problem market fit. Is it even the
Mm-hmm.
right problem to solve? Then you have
Mm-hmm.
problem solution fit, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
it the solution you're thinking about? Is it even hold? Does it hold any water? Then you have product market fit, etc., right? So venture studio is taking that thing from zero to these stage gates, and at different points it actually invites co-founders from outside, co-founders investments from outside. So
I see.
at this point I'm happy to say the caravan funds has went through quite a few stage gates. We have the we have cross problem solution fit, problem market fit, problem solution fit. We are in a product market fit stage, and we have some fantastic co-founders who joined us. Some investors hopefully will be joining soon, and we have our
Mm-hmm.
first client. That's the main thing, right? First successful client whom we delivered with success. So that's where it is. Careerverse is another Careverse is another example where we are doing what uh, the motto is: the design don't design for your clients, design with them, right?
Sure.
That's the
Yeah.
motto.
Yeah.
So we actually this is a Careverse is a great example of that, because we started collaborating. That's the career guidance software, right? So we started
Mm-hmm.
collaborating with a superintendent in Wisconsin, right? It's the through pure cold calling, right? Pure cold calling. So they are very passionate about it. So now he collaborated with us almost 2 years now to develop the product, and now it's ready for pilot in a network of school districts. So
How does it work in the very beginning? Do you have an idea for innovation and then you like recruit people to organize and find investors and start? Or somebody will come to you and say, hey, Adil, I have this great idea. Can you help me execute it?
right. Yes. Yes, meaning both. So yes, if you go to 8126 website, you'll see there is a bucket
Mm-hmm.
where we have in-house ideas that we are
Mm-hmm.
taking from stage A to stage B to stage three. Right? Now, so both Caravan and Careverse are in that bucket. In
Got it.
those cases, in those cases, um, we have like the venture studio has collaborated with the subject matter experts to validate the ideas very early stage, right? And we are nurturing it through.
Mm-hmm.
The second bucket is the dojo or the immersive learning environment. I'm sure you heard about agile dojo as well, right? Which is an immersive learning environment.
Right.
There we are creating a 4-week dojo environment where we would be collaborating with enterprises.
Can you explain a little bit more on the dojo model for somebody who may not know what it is? Like
Yeah,
really
sure.
quick, what it is, how it works.
So the dojo model is basically you create a cohort. You create a
Mm-hmm.
cohort of people, right? And we give them then either if the company a company is sponsoring it, they may say they may already have a problem space in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they may come to us saying, "Hey, we are interested in impact innovation, right?" And we have this roster of things. They may choose to participate in something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have some, of course. You can imagine there are challenges around IP production. Okay, we want to create the most conducive environment so that people don't hold back their ideas, right? They contribute their ideas. So
Mm-hmm.
that has to be very clear, right? Who owns the IP? Usually, we tend to propose that the cohort owns the IP somehow and benefits from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I mean, what's the point of participating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we go through exactly the same stages that the portfolio part of the when your studio goes through exactly the same stage, right? Problem market fit, problem solution fit, etc. Of course, in four
Yeah.
weeks you cannot in 4 weeks you cannot, of course, like go all the way to
Just like
product market fit,
becomes like
obviously.
an MVP basically, right? The first
Yeah,
prototype.
and we greatly leverage on no code, low code MVP. Nowadays, you can stitch together so many. I mean, you can stitch together
Mm-hmm.
a pretty functional application without a single line of code.
Right, right.
And we encourage the there are some great examples of like Dropbox, then Zappos, how they kind of started just by gluing together some processes, right? So
Yeah,
you can create a facade of a service, do some
right.
things manually in the background, but still provide the service and validate lots of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the dojo model is basically to try it for 1 month. If it feels good, if we are and then basically, as lean startup says, pivot or persevere, right? Do you want to pivot
Mm-hmm.
to something else, stop it altogether, or persevere means go to the next 4 week dojo?
Yeah. So how many people are usually involved in this process for a month?
So in the dojo, so 10 max probably in a cohort.
Small team, so the collaboration is
Small team,
there,
yeah, yeah.
working,
Small
yeah,
team,
day to day
small
with each
cross
other.
functional team, small cross-functioning team.
Yep.
Now, the good thing about venture studio model, what you see is that most startups, if you break down like agile story mapping, right, what they do, right, back office support, like
Mm-hmm.
financial, etc., you'd see that most startups share like 80-85% common stuff, like all the
Mm-hmm.
logistics. The innovation is probably
Yeah.
is happening in the 15-20%, right? So uh, that's actually one way we will keep the cost down, right? Because many are sharing resources, right? In
Yeah.
dojo as well,
Mm-hmm.
benefits from the same approach because
I
they
see.
leverage on that bulk rate, you can say, right? A good example is say Miro licensing, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a very simple
Yeah.
example.
Yeah. You can definitely leverage and reuse a lot of resources and pay for one license
Mm.
and use it in many places, and that helps
Uh,
little by little. It helps. Yeah.
mm.
So we were also wanted to touch a little bit on the project to product journey and some transitions. So how does it apply to the work that you do, and is it like? Can you give me a little bit background uh, how you work on this and where it's applicable?
Project to product is not a huge problem for where we are particularly. The only reason
Mm-hmm.
because by nature, venture studios, like the lifespan of a product within the venture studio is very early stage, right? The moment it
Mm-hmm.
starts showing, like Caravan Fund is showing some signs of life and getting to a point where it'll get to a size where uh, the whole PMO functions, it'll be a sizable thing so that projects will come in, trickle in, right? By that time, it's out
Mm-hmm.
of the venture studio, right? Having said that, though, I have seen it almost 100% of the enterprise space, right? It's there.
Yeah.
The project mentality comes in, right? And so one thing that I think helps in that shift is to figure out that a project has a start and an end, right? And so does a product, right? It has a start, and at some point it ends, right? But
Mm-hmm.
um, I think one thing that the project mindset does not cover is continuity of service, right? When you think about a product, so if you look at fifth discipline, right? Peter Senge, right, talks about system thinking, right? Um, uh,
Mm-hmm.
then there's like human-centered design talks about system thinking. So when you're thinking about project, when you think about product, it forces you. It serves as a forcing function to think about it as a system, right? What will happen when, okay, a project is a feature. A feature development can be a project
Yeah.
that you can think of it as a feature, right? You
Okay. Yeah.
envision the feature, do market develop analysis, whatever, deliver the feature, done. You're happy, high fiving, right? But then
Yeah.
what? What did the feature do, right? Is Does it have to be enhanced, right? Does it have to be sunset, right?
Right.
Where What is the construct that will help you think about that? You have to think about a product then, right? Because the project is gone already.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Right.
why in enterprise, um, I think one easy way of thinking of it, or one elegant way, not easy way, elegant way of thinking of it, I believe, is that, like, bring the work to the team, and not the team to the work, right? In project, you usually, like in COVID, we had to do that, right? You bring
Mm-hmm.
many people together, right? And did some project, right? That's fine. We had to react, right? But at the same time, we cannot stop thinking about, okay, what will happen when the project ends. So
That this is one of these challenges or big differences between the mindset for project versus product. Many times, what I see, for example, is when you get um, a funder who wants to do certain thing, you create a project for it because it's a feature, like you said, or a set of features that they want to do or solve some problem, whatever it's called. But it has a specific end, a specific funding, and only certain people work on it. And once it ends, you hand it off, and that's it basically. All all everything that happens afterwards is either like you have to buy licenses for support or you have to like pay for support as you use it. Whatever the model is, maybe there is some free support. It depends on the company and how they do it. But
mm,
if you have a product and you treat everything as product and you have like quarterly budgets for enhancements or for quarterly budgets for R&D and things like that, and like you mentioned before, you use lean and you use design thinking and just feeding that, creating that feedback loop from usage back to the product backlog and delivering on those. That's where the product cycle starts spinning. Uh, it can spin for
exactly.
a long time. We know
And
products that work for a long time.
mhm, mhm. One thing I forgot to mention, you just triggered it, is that one aspect of, even there's some, not pitfall. There's something to, even when you embrace the product approach. One thing to visit and revisit is that one line, like falling in love with the problem, not the solution. Is that is I mean, start everything, peg everything to the value. Basically, value would be your north star, right? That
Right.
what was the problem that we are trying to solve here, right? Sometimes you will see that in the busyness of doing things, right? The value. I mean, we have started solving some other problem, right? It may be a good
Yeah.
problem. I'm not saying the
People
second
lose
problem is a bad
focus.
problem.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
get busy, we lose focus. Yes.
right. Maybe that's the point when you spin off another product, or
Right.
or merge two products, something like that, right? So revisiting that north star every now and then. That's why I love product charting. But product charting usually we do like just once at the beginning of the product, right? But
Yeah.
we are trying to do that like not a heavy duty process. It's just going through some questions. Hey, um, are we on course, or
Yeah.
did some things change? I
Okay, cool. So you also mentioned some challenges. Um, Obviously, there are all some challenges with this process, and I just want to see like what is there a trend of like the most thing that happen all the time and prevent people from successful transition from project to product? What's holding up people, and how to overcome all of that?
mm, this will depend on when you're saying people, right? Are we talking about the startups, or mid-size enterprise, federal agencies, right? So different context, right? um in as I said, most of the places where the project to product transition needs to happen, I have seen it in the rather larger enterprises and agencies.
Sure.
So
Hmm.
there, one thing I have felt is that sometimes there is when people start thinking about a product mindset, some positions may feel resistant because they feel threat. Okay, where am I in this big picture, right? Do I see myself in this big picture, right? And if that
Yeah.
mapping is not clear, if that it's a little bit it's a non-technical answer. It's a human thing. We need to address from the leadership onward that, hey, to give that space, and or create that peace of mind that we are not thinking about firing half the people, right, or something like
Yeah.
that, right?
I mean,
So it's
that's
just a
important.
reshuffling. It's just a
Right.
reshuffling of it, right? So the resistance,
Hmm.
that's one major resistance I have even this like a first-hand witness. I was not even even a it's not a hearsay. I've heard people even say that, in a project to product type discussion, that some leadership saying that in a big meeting that he felt so so threatened that his thing will go away, right? He said, I am marking my territory. I said, okay. That actually triggered us. Oh man, we are doing it wrong, right? I mean, you have to create that
Yeah.
space, correct? So that's one thing. The other thing is, I think the excitement, or one thing that I really, I think I took from this 8126 ventures or this adventure, right, is that when you are really passionately married to solving the problem, right, everything else will be logistics, right? How do we fashion ourselves to achieve solve that problem, right?
Hmm.
And at that point, selling the answer that, okay, take a product approach, is much easier once people are focused on, okay, we are solving this problem.
Hmm.
What's the most efficient way of solving it? So I think value. I mean, that's another thing we don't reiterate enough. Each product
Hmm.
needs to have crisp, clear North Star that this product is solving this problem. This is
Yeah.
why it's existing. If in a product portfolio you look at it and that answer is not clear, then we should rethink: should this product be sunset or not, right? And it's fine, right? I mean, people who are working on that product may feel threatened again. Hey, if this my baby goes away, where would I go? There are
Yeah.
other 20 million problems to solve, man, right? Uh, right. But I think from leadership, it has to, they have to iterate continuously. You know how we say the same thing to the kids, right? So, and it's ourselves as well. So uh, reminding ourselves
Hmm.
and that our mission is to solve XYZ. So let's go for it. Right? M is not relevant
Yeah.
anymore. Let's
So yeah, so there's just have to be communication from the leadership and make sure there is safety in this and provide proper training and assure people that, like, even though if this is going to happen and we're going to start new things and or do things in a new way, don't worry, we'll just have to adopt and try it and like that. This is what also happens at the team level when I work with them and there's some resistance of doing something or try a new approach. And when I see the resistance, and I just tell them like, okay, guys, don't worry, nothing is gonna be broken. We're just trying this for a couple months or 3 months or whatever, and
Yeah.
we're gonna check the results and see how it goes. If it doesn't work, we'll roll back. It's not a big deal. We're just learning here. So yeah, the,
One tool wise, I think if we adopt, I mean, the OKR practice, top to bottom, that makes a
hmm
very lightweight tool, right? It's just you just set some OKRs which create the North Star at the top level, and then that organically aligns everyone else to create their OKRs, right? So if revisiting that, that's a like a nice tangible thing to do, right? When we set the North Star, we can use OKRs,
hmm
and that's some great examples
That's a
of.
good framework for
Mm,
goal setting and for targets and how to measure all of that and periodic check-ins.
right.
That's definitely a good tool to use. So yeah, that's good. Um, so any other lessons learned that you want to share from either your studio or from enterprise world? Anything that you think is what you're doing now is really enabled you to do, and what those lessons are.
Yeah, great question. Because there's a couple of very good books. One is Innovator's Dilemma. I'm sure you have heard about Christensen, and then Safi Bakal. He wrote Loon Towns, right? How to do innovation, and there are some
Mm-hmm.
pitfalls that happens no matter who you are. There's some, like, it's built in the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is the bigger you get, right? The bigger your size gets as a company,
Mm-hmm.
you will get from zero to go to that. They definitely did something right, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get very good at first. There was some breakthrough innovation, then they marketed them well, and then you start going big and big, right? And they get very good at sustainable innovation, incremental innovation. Like, you have a less powerful hard disk, you make a more powerful hard disk, etc., right? But at the same time, they lose the capability to respond to change by disruptive innovation. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
documented thing that is true.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm seeing is that in our federal agencies and in the enterprise as well, one thing that both those guys suggested in their books, and it's not just a theory, it's they have proved it in very many ways, that you have to separate out the you have to have some process that is separate from your main mission. The
Mm-hmm.
disruptive innovation part, the innovation management part, has to be separated out. Hence the dojo concept. I am plugging in the dojo thing, right? That's
Okay.
what actually started us with that. That how do you separate it out, right? So we are basically in the dojo. We envision that we'll productize this process basically, right? So that people don't, agencies don't have to think long and hard of, oh, how do we separate it out? No, you just, I mean, we have a process. You just come in and do 4 weeks of stuff here. That's
Yeah.
your separate process. But you have to have a process to separate that out.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, separate that out and give that. So you would probably take some A teams to go there and work on disruptive innovation a little bit. So you have to separate it out and also create the process to crossover. These guys fit into this. These guys fit into this. So there has to be a crisp, clear innovation management process. That's one thing that I think most of the enterprise is still missing. 70% of the CXOs want to have it, but they don't have it because of the
Mm.
business of the actual keeping the lights on, and it's so busy. People get so busy, they just until you get so threatened by a disruptor who is now taking you out of business, right?
So, what's your recommendation, or maybe you've seen how people solved it effectively? How can you
You
encourage
can
them?
always join the dojo.
Yeah, but I mean, if
No,
leadership is
seriously, no,
kind of,
seriously, so
yeah.
seriously, right? So recommendation is it's just that once we first step is acknowledgement, right? That this is something that we want to do. This is important. We want to do it.
Hmm.
Second step is, as I said, take some very lightweight approach. We proved in our 3 years journey, right, that the cost is so very minimal for early stage innovation. As long
Hmm.
as you know and you play with the right people. So budget is not an issue. It's more like an execution, and people is not issue because the people we are talking about, they have lots of people, right? They can dedicate 5% of that to disruptive innovation, right? How do we
Hmm.
manage it? Basically, just like we think about agile processes in place, right? Agile transformation, DevSecOps transformation. This is not a transformation. It's just having a innovation management process in place, and these are lightweight processes. You just plug them in. Uh, Lightweight by definition because it has to be outside that huge behemoth you're supporting. It has to be
Yeah.
outside, and you just have to have some communication channels going back and forth, right? So you cannot just let loose these people. These will be brilliant people working on disruptive innovation. You let them loose, they will invent something that
Yeah.
nobody needs, right? So there has to be feedback from the market.
Sure. That makes sense. All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot. That was good
We burned an hour,
conversation.
man.
Yeah,
We
I
burned
know,
a full
right?
hour.
You had some good stories to tell us, so that's great. So let's wrap up, and can you just tell us how people can connect with you and find you?
Well, yeah. So I'll share my link. I'm there in LinkedIn, and of course, I'll share my whole contact here.
Take some of your contact information, put to the description and comments and everywhere.
Sure, and I'll
But
send you that gift
mhm.
I promised, which is a
Okay,
product maker's canvas, a picture of a
okay,
bird, and along with my contacts. It's Adil Faisal
okay,
at 8126 Adventures. Yeah.
okay, great.
All right.
All right. So
Vitaly,
thanks a
nice to
lot.
talk to you.
Yeah, same here. Thank you, Adil. And
Thanks
we'll
for
stay in
me.
touch. Thank you very
Bye.
much. Bye.
Bye.